Freeze. Okay, so this is not a cop and robber show, but this is what we ask when we see that we have a transaction that has a credit line that has to be paid off. There are many cases of clients continuing to use that credit line while we are trying to make the payoff. So freeze and welcome to our equity line drama in our Escrow from the Trenches series. Let's say that a seller has a 200,000 equity credit line that allows him to draw on the line from time to time. Perhaps he had used up 150,000 of it already when he entered into escrow to sell the property. He then had an extra 50,000 that was unused. Escrow is closing and they had already received a payoff statement showing the payoff amount. Let's say that 2 days before the closing, the seller had an emergency and needed some cash. So he withdrew the balance of 50,000 from that credit line, and the payoff amount, of course, became 200,000. But the escrow was not advised. They had the old payoff statement of 150,000. So you see where I am going with this. At closing, escrow contacted the lender. The lender acknowledged the balance of 150,000 and the payoff was made. Now you're wondering, what happened to the last minute draw of 50,000? That draw took time to wind itself through the loan servicing department, and by the time the final accounting was done, it was 2 days later. The lender realized that instead of 150,000 that they had received, they were going to be short 50,000. So they rejected and returned the whole 150,000 and demanded the full 200,000 instead. But by this time, the escrow had closed. The seller received his net proceeds, of course, minus just 150,000. What a mess. The equity lender refused to consider the equity line paid in full until they received the full 200,000. And escrow is at a standstill because the title company would not provide insurance to the buyer that stated all of the seller's loans were paid because of that equity line. And the buyer's new lender, instead of holding a loan in first position, is now in second position behind that seller's equity line. All in all, a very bad situation. So who is at fault? The fault, of course, lies with the seller. He should not have withdrawn the 50,000 2 days before closing. It's so close to closing and the payoff of the actual loan. But once he did, he should have advised escrow of the higher unpaid balance so a new payoff statement could be ordered. And when he got his estimated closing statement and the net proceeds, the seller should have let escrow know immediately of the discrepancy and returned the extra proceeds that he should not have received. For this particular seller, not a peep until escrow brought the payoff shortage to his attention and asked for the funds back. He hemmed and hawed for days and refused to return the funds until he was gently reminded that he was obligated to do so, or he would be held liable under the law for unjust enrichment. So here are the lessons that we learned. For the client with an equity line, if you think you have need of the funds, withdraw them before you enter the escrow. Once you enter into an escrow, do not use the line anymore, period. End of story. Check your account and make sure that the balance owed is correct. Match it to the estimate that you receive from the escrow. For the escrow, these are the lessons that you learn once you are dealing with an equity line. immediately ask the seller to sign a freeze letter to stop using the line. Send that freeze letter to the lender immediately so that they will actually do the freezing. In addition, order a payoff statement at the same time because some lenders will freeze the line when a payoff statement is requested. And at the end, before the closing, try to contact the lender one more time and make sure the balance on that escrow did not change. In this particular case, faced with a threat of legal action, the client returned the $50,000. After a tense week in the escrow trenches, the impasse was resolved and all's well that ended well. This is Juliana too. Thank you for listening. This video subject matter may not be one that comes up often, but it is still an example of what we are faced with daily in the escrow trenches. Subscribe to my channel, like my videos, follow my escrow tips series. Give me feedback, give me comments. My information is in this slide in case you need me. And I shall see you in my next video. Thank you for watching.